Spectators, people who had been wandering around the streets because of the earthquake, were starting to gather. Among the crowd, I thought I saw a few who were walking with strange, trotting gait of disguised satyrs. They were shimmering forms of spirits, too, as if the dead had risen from Hades to watch the battle. I heard the flap of leathery wings circling overhead somewhere. More sirens. I stepped farther into the water, but Ares was fast. The tip of his blade ripped my sleeve and grazed my forearm. A police with a megaphone said, "Drop the guns! Send them to the ground! Now!" Guns? I looked at Ares' weapon. It seemed to be flickering. Sometimes it looked like a shotgun, sometimes a two-handed sword. I didn't know what the humans were seeing in my hands, but I was pretty sure it wouldn't make them like me. Ares turned to glare at our spectators, which gave me a moment to breathe. There were 5 police cars now, and a line of officers crouching behind them, pistols trained on us. "This is a private matter," Ares bellowed. "Be gone!" He swept his hand, and a wall of red flame rolled across the patrol cars. The police barely had time to dive for cover before the vehicles exploded. The crowd behind them scattered. Ares roared with laughter. "Now, little hero, let's add you to the barbecue." He slashed. I deflected his blade. I got close enough to strike. Tried to fake him out with a feint, but my blow was knocked aside. The waves were hitting me in the back now. Ares was up to his thighs, wading in after me. I felt the rhythm of the sea, the waves growing larger as the tide rolled in. And suddenly, I had an idea. Little waves, I thought, and the water behind me seemed to recede. I was holding back the tide by force of will, but tension was building like a carbonation behind a cork. Ares came forward, grinning confidently. I lowered my blade as if I was too exhausted to go on. "Wait for it," I told the sea. The pressure was now almost lifting me off my feet. Ares raised his sword. I released the tide and jumped, rocketed straight over Ares on a wave. A 6-foot wall of water smashed him full in the face, leaving him cursing and sputtering with a mouthful of seaweed. I landed behind him with a splash and feinted towards his head, as I'd done before. He turned in time to raise his sword, but this time he was disoriented, and he didn't anticipate the trick. I changed direction, I lunged to the side, and stabbed Riptide straight down into the water, sending the point through the god's heel. The roar that followed made Hades' earthquake look like a minor event. The very sea was blasted back from Ares, leaving a wet circle of sand 50 feet wide. Ichor, the golden blood of the gods, flowed from a gash in the war god's boot. The expression on his face was beyond hatred. It was pain, shock, complete disbelief that he'd been wounded. He limped towards me, muttering ancient Greek curses. Something stopped him. It was as if a cloud had covered the sun, but worse. Light faded. Sound and color drained away. A cold, heavy presence pressed over the beach, slowing time, dropping the temperature to freezing, and making me feel like life was hopeless. The fighting was useless. The darkness lifted. Ares looked stunned. Police cars were burning behind us. The crowd of spectators had fled. Annabeth and Grover stood on the beach in shock, watching the water flood back around Ares' feet, his golden ichor dissipating with the tide. Ares lowered his sword. "You have made me an enemy, godling," he told me. "You have sealed your fate. Every time you raise your blade in battle, every time you hope for success, you will feel my curse. Beware, Perseus Jackson. Beware." His body began to glow. "Percy!" Annabeth shouted. "Don't watch!" I turned away as the god Ares revealed his true immortal form. I knew somehow that if I looked, I would disintegrate into ashes. The light died. I looked back, and Ares was gone. The tide rolled out to reveal Hades' bronze helm in the darkness. I picked it up and walked towards my friends. Before I got there, I heard the flapping of leathery wings. 3 evil-looking grandmothers with lace hats and fiery whips drifted down from the sky and landed in front of me. The middle Fury, the one who had been Mistad, stepped forward. Her fangs were bared, but once she didn't look threatening. She looked more disappointed, as if she'd been planning to have me for supper, but that I'd given her indigestion.